Be the Chief, Chapter 8, Leading Sailors. The good chief says, I take care of sailors. The great chief says, I build leaders. When I solicited feedback from chiefs for what to include in this guide, I was legit surprised by the number of seasoned chiefs who asked me for something so simple. Tell me how to best lead sailors. I mean, how basic is that? With that level of question from very strong chiefs, it really, again, has me wondering how our initiation and mentorship processes have gone so far off track. Successful leadership of sailors can be broken into 3 bins. 1, be the example in the standard. 2, intrusive leadership. And 3, follow-up. When you're committed to all 3 areas, you have graduated from the junior varsity chief mentality of taking care of sailors. We'll start it like this. A good chief takes care of sailors. The great chief leads sailors. One more, the best chiefs are building more leaders, and they're showing up to the deck plates to make a difference. Remember, there's a reason this saying exists. You're not a real chief until you've made a chief. As a first-class petty officer, you already took care of sailors. You came into work and you ate whatever shit sandwich came your way. You put out fires. You reacted and you survived until chief's next tasking. Taking care of sailors is easy. Leading sailors and operating from a proactive point of view is more difficult. It's more time-consuming and requires a lot more purpose and motivation. In other words, you have to truly serve. As we go through these 3 bins, we'll discuss the proactive chief versus the reactive chief as well. Being the example on its own is a lazy way to lead. It is the first-class petty officer who wins the PRT with a 9-minute mile while the rest of us in their division fails or becomes discouraged. It's the first-class petty officer who wins Sailor of the Quarter while their junior sailor lost Junior Sailor of the Quarter because the first class never inspected their uniform or prepared them for the board. I lead by example. All right, great. How's that working out for your people? When you set an example and make the example and the standard attainable for your sailors as part of a purpose, it becomes very valuable. They then view you not as the leader who wants to be somebody, but who wants to do some things. Be the chief every sailor needs you to be. You ever see that saying about be the person your dog thinks you are? Yes, I've mentioned it like 3 times. Okay, you need to be the chief your sailor needs you to be. The chief that can move mountains, as advertised. And that comes with being the example. Not the poster child, not perfection, not great 24/7, but an example they can strive to meet. Professional, approachable, empathetic, uniform on point, hardly surprised by anything. Always there in the clutch. The chief that makes the sailor proud to be in their division. Whether you like it or not, when you wear that anchor, you are now bound by the expectations of everyone who sees that anchor. Some sailors hate chiefs, and they will, by nature, hate you. Others are aspiring to be chiefs, and they have incredibly high expectations based on how chiefs have previously served them. Both are true, and you can take neither view personally. But you absolutely must understand this exists and make this part of your mission to be appropriately self-aware. Let's talk about setting the standard. You set the standard, you don't kill people with the standard. For the most part, our standards are easy to meet. But some chiefs will insist on creating or expecting even higher standards. Not everyone has the same motivation and approaches as you do. Alternatively, if your sailor is not meeting the standard, get in there early and often. Don't watch it happen and cascade into a crisis. When it's time for correction, care personally and challenge directly. Seek to understand all of the sailor's challenges and let them know why you're invested in getting back on track. Did you ever have a chief tell you the reason they're driving you so hard is because they're training you as their relief? That's pretty powerful, isn't it? The proactive chief sets the standard and makes sure everyone sees them as the example meeting the standard. When the chief does it, everyone better be doing it. The reactive chief assumes everyone should know the standard and then, surprised, cleans up messes when they happen and reactively corrects people. Good chiefs are good at putting out fires. Great chiefs set conditions that discourage fires from popping up in the first place. Intrusive leadership is the best agent you have to protect against fires. Intrusive leadership means taking the time to ask questions, to know your people, and to have a genuine finger on the pulse of what is going on. This topic is far and away one of the least popular and most evaded of any Navy leadership training. Why? Because inexperienced chiefs and inexperienced leaders in general confuse intrusive leadership with micromanagement. These are not the same. To start, let's talk about why some chiefs think this way. How many times have you heard, well, I didn't want to micromanage? Okay, like micromanaging is the worst thing in the world. Listen, if you're leading people and the only complaint anyone provides to you is that you can be a micromanager sometimes, then you put a feather in your cap because you're looking pretty good. That's easy feedback to take and then improve if you even want to. True micromanagement is everything your sailors hate. Coming in early and staying late to do busy work. Email read receipts. It's assigning a task, pestering them for the status of the task, telling them exactly how to complete the task, and hounding them to completion so you can ultimately be that big powerhouse chief who says proudly, I just should have done it myself. Micromanaging is jumping into a discussion or someone's program and starting out with statements or suggestions before you even ask them about how they reached their initial decisions or strategies. Micromanagement is calling a sailor while they're at an appointment to ask them what's taking them so long to get back. In one of my favorite examples, I once got assigned a project that was well outside my purview by an officer who I didn't report to. That in itself is no big deal, and it happens a lot to chiefs. But as a new chief, I was confounded by this. We had some talks, the officer went on her way, and I felt like we had reached a compromise. Later that week, I got a lengthy email dictating to me the project, and this included a daily breakdown of whom I was to consult on it, meetings to host, and periodic touch points to report back on it. I quickly concluded that she had consulted someone higher up, and I had my marching orders. But I was also livid because I was afforded zero freedom to accomplish the task, and I felt like because I had way more experience than her at that command, I was better equipped to work out the tactical side of the project. My ego also appeared and asked, what did you ever do to deserve this micromanagement? What to do? I skipped a few touch points using some other requirements as cover and concealment, and I handed in the project 2 weeks early. By the time she reviewed it, roughly a month later, she was massively impressed, and I never had the issue again. I found it much easier to silence my ego and simply do something. Are there sailors who warrant micromanagement? Absolutely. And the argument can be made that people who complain most about micromanagement are the ones who deserve it the most. Still, there is a balance, and you can accomplish everything you need by simply being intrusive at a basic level. Intrusive, the word intrusive, is not intended to have a negative connotation, but people in the military have made it that way. Intrusive means to project inward. To intrude means to cause a disruption, and again, a disruption should not carry a negative connotation. What we are doing is involving ourselves in the lives and daily routines of the sailors, from the new check-in to the junior officer. Whether they are comfortable with that is very much a them problem, because being intrusive is the duty of every chief, whether the sailors like it or not. If you think about it, the most intrusive colleagues you have are probably the officers, right? The only way you are going to be effective with that is to be intrusive with your own people to stay on target and help that officer focus on officer things while you lead your people. Intrusive leadership is not difficult, but it does require time, caring, and walking the deck plates. For example, on a Friday, most commands want to get their people out the door for the weekend. So you see stuff like quarters, cleaners, etc., rope yarn. Novice leaders don't want to hold anyone up. They just want to get their people on their way because they think it increases their popularity and coolness. Oh, Chief so-and-so is just so laid back, always lets us go early, and the like. But in being proactive, this is an opportunity to be intrusive, to keep those fires from starting, and it only costs a minute or two. The good chief makes sure their people get all the time off they can get. The great chief asks them how they plan to spend their time before they take it. As in, you have a sailor heading out on a Thursday for a long 3-day weekend. You ask them, hey, have a great weekend. You got any big plans? Not really, Chief. Beach day tomorrow and then probably spending some time with the family. Okay, what did that accomplish? Okay, well, sailor heads home Thursday, gets a text that night, there's a big party going on across the border in Mexico in an off-limits locale, and now has a decision to make. Do they go to the party where there is a high probability of something going wrong, or do they carry on as planned? That sailor has to calculate how that emergency phone call with Chief would go if they have to explain their actions and how their plans now look like a lie to their chief. You can argue this and take it a million different directions if you want. But the fact is, most sailors are going to take that tactical pause to think about it. And that absolutely can be the difference between a safe weekend or a life-changing weekend. Asking the question, got any plans, is healthy, intrusive leadership. It is harmless. It costs the chief nothing. And it tells the sailor how the chief is interested in everyone's well-being. Here's another example. Hey, shipmate, did you decide if you need time to fly home yet for that event? Oh, I'm working on it, Chief. I need to see if I have enough balance available on my American Express card to buy the tickets. Oh, whoa. Not only is there a balance so high it needs to be checked, but it's on an American Express card, which is not the card you want to be rolling high balances on. The chief needs to be intrusive here and ask if there is anything they can do and have the uncomfortable talk about that sailor's finances. Where there is smoke, there is fire, and being intrusive here can help a lot. Another one. Hey, Chief, can I have a day of special lib Thursday? Maybe. What's going on? Well, I just have a lot of personal stuff to take care of is all. Trying to get straight on a few real life things so I can get back to feeling like myself. Again, the chief needs to use those 2 ears here and inquire about what human factors the sailor is dealing with. There are chiefs who hate these talks because they're uncomfortable and maybe they're not good at being empathetic. But any of these challenges should absolutely be seen as opportunities for the chief to make a positive impact on the sailor's life. A good chief does this to take care of sailors. The great chief views their work as the Navy helping the sailors and family. The bottom line is, no colleague of yours is ever going to resent you for asking questions of them when it becomes obvious that you are asking because you care. It is that simple. Some chiefs ask things like they're afraid of the answer or they don't trust the sailor. No, look the person directly in the eyes, be sincere, make it the most important conversation you're going to have that day. You will win. There are way worse feelings a sailor will have during the day than, my chief really cares about me. The third and final bin is follow-up, which, oddly enough, is often mangled as some sort of micromanagement. When you assign a task, give a suspense. This is not micromanagement. It tells the person when you need it back. Always make the suspense a little bit of time before your drop dead need. This allows yourself some time for nonsense. Second, if you want to include a request for an update and a forum for how you like to receive information, do it. Again, you're helping the task person plan on how they are going to complete your task. Finally, when your deadlines are not met, you follow up. This is not micromanagement. They blew through your deadline and they owe you an answer. What you don't want to do is go high and right about it. Instead, simply ask something like, "Hey, I'm sure you're busy as we all are spinning right now, but you said I'd have an update by whenever the date is. Do you have anything for me?" There's nothing wrong with that. No need to accuse them of malice or put words in their mouth. People have shit going on. And surprise, your task might not be the most important to them. Remember how we discussed everyone is in their own movie and not always thinking of only you? Follow-up is especially important to chiefs, more than maybe most other pay grades of the Navy. Let's look at the basic year of a first-class petty officer. Starting in November, most first classes begin new collateral duties and set out to diversify their jobs so they can have a better eval for next time. The chief has to follow up on that eval debrief to ensure the sailors are getting the most opportunities to be successful. Sometimes new LPOs need to be trained. Turnover has to occur. Sailors need to prep for the chief exam, all while learning how to take care of their own sailors for the E5 eval period. The chief selection eligible list comes out, and they need to be mentored on their packages. And we have to go back and review CDBs, evals, and such to keep them on track. Then in May, it is the midterm counselings. A midterm counseling is going to include a follow-up from the previous eval, if applicable, and a thorough mentorship session on how the sailor is performing and how they become more successful. A midterm counseling is where the real money is made, and that session should last about 200% longer than any eval debrief. Midterm counselings require follow-up. Are we doing what we said we do? How is your collateral duty going? What did you turn in for your junior sailor of the quarter package? And why was it not successful? Stuff like that. Then there is chief results, and this will include non-select CDBs for the names not on the list. True, a non-select CDB is not mandatory, but when you ignore that, think of how you look in the eyes of that sailor. Chief doesn't pay attention to me because my name wasn't on the list. I'm not one of the prize sailors. This is a thing. In fact, every year when chief results come out, I make it a point to grab those who didn't make it and sit them down privately first to let them know we care about them. Most times, we'll send them home early. Back to the grind. There is the 6 weeks of season, which leads into first class petty officer evals again. Most chiefs famously disappear to be involved in CPO initiation, which is simply a habit we must break. This is tragic because it puts all the weight on the LPOs and the other first classes who did not advance, and therefore puts them into about a 2-month period lacking the coaching and development they need, and all by being on the final approach to their eval in November, no less. The good chief coaches and mentors their people and trains their relief. The great chief trains, coaches, and mentors all sailors regardless of the date on the calendar or their pay grade. Then comes Sailor of the Year packages, which is another great opportunity for follow-up. After reviewing all your sailors' brag sheets, you get a great indication of how well you did as a chief, putting opportunities in front of them and helping them get wins. If those brag sheets are lacking, have an honest chat with yourself. Then you have first-class evals. These should be quick debriefs. Any questions? No? Great. Sign here. You have done so much mentorship and so much follow-up during the year, including everything we discussed, plus CDBs, that there should be absolutely nothing of surprise on that eval. An eval is not recognition. It is not an award. It is not a thank you session. And there should be no confusion because you've had a year of training and mentorship so that there won't be any surprises once that final piece of paper makes its way across the table. Follow-up should be applied everywhere. When someone asks you a question or tasks you in a meeting, pay the proper courtesy and write it down and then follow up. If you receive an email from anyone about anything and it looks like a response from you is warranted, follow up, even if it is simply to acknowledge the email. This is one of the easiest things you can do to be a solid communicator and be viewed as a person of action who sees things through. There's one more important trick when it comes to follow-up, and it's in the email inbox. Once or twice per week, scroll all the way down to the very bottom of your inbox and work your way back up to the top, reading every single subject line. I usually keep between 50 to 70 emails in my general inbox at any time, while the rest are organized into other folders. Revisiting the entirety of my inbox at least weekly affords me the chance to follow up and close loops. I cannot tell you how many times a person has thanked me for following up on something they forgot about. It is very useful. How do you know if you're effectively leading your sailors? Everyone knows the answer to this, I think, whether you're a chief or another frontline leader. If your workday is ho-hum and you're cruising along, putting out the occasional fire, and you're sending all your sailors' requirements up the chain because someone above you told you to, then you likely are not leading anything. You're holding down a job. And if everything that catches on fire is a surprise to you, that probably means you are not approachable because people aren't bringing you issues ahead of time. You ever hear a leader say, "Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions"? Well, all right, how about next time I bring you a kick in your pants? A proactive leader who shows up to work to make a difference would counter. I see this as a significant and unique problem if you're coming to me for help, and I'm sure if you all could have solved this at your level, you would have. Let's plan a sit down to go over this, and I'm sure we can find a way. You know, sometimes I think the bring me solutions guy and the you gotta work me out of a job guy are the same guy. But if your days are exciting and dynamic, and your people frequently bring you problems, you are winning. If your sailors are advancing and showing well and growing and developing, and good feedback crosses your desk from all kinds of avenues, you're doing great. From there, all you need to do is own that calendar and crush it. We talked about what a year of requirements looks like for a first-class petty officer. It's a lot, right? Sure, but remember, none of these things are ever a surprise. The good chief knocks these out when they're told. The great chief is already preparing their people for the next ridgeline. Remember, you're always going to get the most from your people when they are trying to catch up with you. Most sailors want to show they can catch the LPO so they can become LPO. Most LPOs who have a goal of becoming chief want to keep up with that chief so they can get those magic words in their eval of already operating as a chief or whatever it is this week. That is the key. When we do all of these things and we show up every day to make a difference and to make our contribution to the legacy of the Navy and the Chief's Mess, we are building our future. If you are not continually striving to return every sailor better than the way you found them, and as such, improving the Navy as a whole, then you need to ask yourself, are you really about it or are you just trying to be in it? Two great reads I've seen on proactive leadership. One is The First 90 Days by Watkins. The second is The 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell.